Okay, so for the customers that love their special colors and they want the super crazy looking powder coating that they see in all the pictures on Instagram, here are my words of caution for you, for what to watch out for. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do it. We've kind of already talked about why Kaiser doesn't like to do it, especially on small projects. This gets so expensive, right? Cost prohibitive for us and for our customers. But if you're gonna, if your heart's set on it, here are kind of the reasons, my words of caution, and really the reasons why we shy away from it. First and foremost, make sure that you know the application that your part is going to be in, and that the color that you pick can actually withstand and have the durability that it needs to. Some of the really fancy colors don't have the durability that they need to hold up on car parts, for example. Might look really cool, but they might not hold up for very long. Okay. And that has to do with the actual powder coating itself. So if you're researching it yourself online, you should be able to see what the description says, maybe look at some data sheets. Most of the special colors are going to take a clear coat because they can't formulate the durability into that product in just like one coat. Or because if they do, it changes the look. So there has to be a clear coat that goes over the top, pretty much just seals it up. Doesn't change the way it really looks, but it adds durability. You want to make sure that the person that is doing your coating is processing the parts correctly, and that they understand when you specify a color that a lot of the time when you pick a color out of a book, a really fancy one, you can't just use that color and replicate what you see on the panel or the brochure. There's a base coat, the intermediate coat, and then a clear coat. And all those together make that color that you see. Most powder coaters know that and understand it. Make sure you yourself as the customer understands that. So you want to make sure that the base coat that you have underneath is the correct one, so that way you get the final look that you're looking for. Now, we've done some fancy colors at Kaiser, and you can, if you know what you're doing, on certain colors you can get away without the base coat, but it depends on the substrate. So when you have these transparent coatings, it's very substrate dependent. The safe way to go is to base coat, intermediate coat, and clear coat if needed. But if you're going over aluminum, for example, which is usually a pretty white product, if you will, it's a bright silver white, was where aluminum kind of leans. Sometimes you can get away without doing a base coat, because most of the time the base coat is a white or it's a silver, so aluminum's kind of already there. If you're going over a really dark steel, or any steel for that matter, usually it's going to darken up too much, because that color, your fancy color is transparent, and you're gonna see the steel underneath, and it's gonna make everything too dark, gonna mess the color up completely. So the base coating is extremely important. Make sure that you're paying attention to that. Understand that just in general, it's gonna be more expensive, right? Ordering in a special color, but there's multiple coats. And most of the time, if they're a reputable coater, they're gonna be adding in extra money because they know there's a good chance that there's gonna be a mistake along the way. They're gonna have to stop, blast everything off, and restart. So that adds a lot of cost. So most people are going to account a little bit for that, because when you're doing, even if you do it a lot, these coatings are finicky, they're tricky, they're hard to use in these multi-coat systems. And to get it to look exactly like the sample panel, it might look good, but it might not look exactly like the sample panel. And some customers are really particular, and they want that exact one because they're paying the extra money. And you could get all the way done as a coder and be like, man, I don't know what we could have done differently, but it doesn't look exactly the same. It's because it's challenging. So that's why this stuff gets more expensive. So probably the last thing I want to say is, as a customer, you're gonna have to be a little bit lenient. You have to understand what you see on that panel. You might not be able to get it exactly the same. sometimes the equipment that you're spraying the powder with, the way it's charging the powder, even if you adjust the settings, you just can't get around certain ways that the gun is working and charging the powder and the electric field that you have. So you can't mimic exactly what's on that sample panel when you're getting into these really fancy multi-coat metallic involved colors and trying to match a swatch that was done in a lab, very controlled. Sometimes it's extremely hard to like duplicate the same thing over and over again when you get those really tricky coatings, because it also depends on the lighting that you're looking at it in. So again, those are just kind of my words of caution. As you can tell, it's really not something that I recommend, because I think it's just because I'm so process oriented. I like for us to get really good at something, collect a lot of data on it, and do it over and over again, and it to be repeatable and reliable, and we know that like we can go to this and it's going to be good, it's going to be done, and you're going to be happy, we're going to be happy, we're going to be within your budget and be on the right lead time. All that stuff kind of goes out the window when you get into these really fancy colors. If you do them a lot, obviously you get better at them. But when you're in the environment of doing a lot of fancy colors, the problem is customers typically don't want any of the ones that you do have, and they want a new one. And you just need to understand, as a customer, every single one of those is different. So every time a coder tries a new one of those, there's a big chance for it to not work out correctly and not look the way that you want it to look. It's not because they're doing anything wrong, it's just because it's challenging.